presentation.
Hi, everyone. We have a few intro slides that we'll start off with here. It would be a shame to not mention Partner of the Year Award. We have two speakers today that are recipients of our 2024 Partner of the Year Award. And I wanted to share with everyone that 2025 application forms are available, so you can start planning your submissions early. This slide shows the criteria for excellence in energy management, and additional information as well as how to get onto the portal to submit can be found on the link in this slide, which will be sent out to you after the webinar today. So that will share with you that the portal opens on October 3rd, and then applications will close on November 14th. And that's going to be for our 2025 year. So we hope that we will have more of you get inspired today and plan to submit an application this year. So to just kick things off, an overview of what you'll hear today and what you can expect, we have two partners that are innovating in their respective fields that we're going to hear from. First up will be Link Logistics, and they'll discuss their strategy for overcoming the split incentive barrier that every warehouse landlord faces. And then we will have a Ventas representative explain how they linked the ENERGY STAR score with the Kingsley score to create goal-setting initiatives for ENERGY STAR ratings. And now I'll pass it over to Clark.
Great, thank you, Sam. As the EPA sector lead for both the supply chain and senior living sectors, I can tell you Link Logistics and Ventas has been on our radar for quite some time. Both organizations have been doing some really incredible innovative projects, which is why, as you heard from Sam, EPA awarded both with our highest award, Partner of the Year for Sustained Excellence in 2024. So here to share their stories is Justine Zenowicz from Link Logistics. She's the Sustainability Manager. She's responsible for overseeing all of ESG reporting and communications related to the firm's sustainability program. Over the past years, she has partnered with Link's technology team to streamline and automate the firm's data collection and reporting processes. She currently manages the go-to-market process and promotion of Link's energy solutions product. And also from Lilybridge, a subsidiary of Ventas, is Michael Braun, Director of Sustainability Engineering. He oversees ENERGY STAR certification and net zero initiatives for all medical office buildings at Ventas, with a BS in mechanical engineering from the University of Wisconsin, an MBA from Marquette University, and a lead role in the sales engineering team at Carbon Lighthouse. Michael brings a wealth of experience in energy efficiency and sustainability. So thank you both for joining us today. We are excited to hear how you're disrupting the status quo. So Justine, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Clark. And a huge thank you to the ENERGY STAR organization at large for the incredible partnership and the resources and the recognition over the last 3 years. Very excited for the opportunity to share a little bit about our sustainability program here at Link, which is based in managing tenant emissions in a triple net environment. So I'll start off with a little bit about Link for those of you who don't know who we are. We are the largest US-only owner and operator of last mile logistics real estate. So we own over 500 million square feet of warehouses, distribution centers, and business parks in the US across about 3,600 properties, servicing over 9,000 tenants. So Link is a 5-year-old company, and we are also Blackstone's largest real estate portfolio company, which puts us in a unique position to disrupt the status quo because we're kind of unencumbered by some legacy systems, and we can create our own solutions to solving traditional barriers and have the benefit of Blackstone's capital to allow us to scale programs relatively quickly. And sustainability is no exception to that. So I will get right into it. When I joined Link about 4 years ago, Sam Stockdale, the head of our program, really sold me on the concept of managing tenant emissions and reducing our scope 3, because that's where 95% of our carbon footprint lives, a common issue for many REITs. And this sounded, very second nature to me, pretty simple, but unfortunately, due to the way we lease our properties, it is not so simple to execute. So over 90% of Link's leases are triple net leases, meaning that our tenants pay for all of their operating expenses, including utilities. And this leads to what we refer to as the split incentive barrier, where landlords hesitate to deploy capital at the asset because the customers are the one who benefit by, since they pay their bills, they experience the lower operating expenses, lower energy charges. So we're reimagining this model with our program called Energy Solutions that attempts to align owner and tenant environmental and financial incentives. So the way this works is we take back the meter, we own our customers' utility accounts, deploy capital on their behalf, and pass back residual savings once we recover the cost of our projects so that everyone's happy. We're recovering our project costs and our tenants are saving money. So before I get into the approach, I would be remiss not to mention that ENERGY STAR Portfolio Manager has been an invaluable tool as we've been standing up this program. Of course, because we have such little access to most of our customers' emissions data, ENERGY STAR is a incredibly useful tool, not only for data collection itself, but because we really prioritize only keeping whole building data in Portfolio Manager, we're actually able to use those ENERGY STAR scores in the way that they're intended to be used and target those low performing assets for conversations with customers around enrollment in the program to ultimately make their properties more efficient. But now I will get into our 3-phased measure, reduce, offset approach. So being a 5-year-old company, the last 4 years or so have really been focused on the measure aspect. And we've also been standing up some national programs, which I'll get to a bit later. But measure, the first step with enrollment in Energy Solutions will always be for us to close our customers' utility accounts in their names and reopen them in our names. So once we have access to that account, we work with a vendor called Utility API, which gives us real-time 15-minute interval level data access at each suite where we own the meter. That data is fully integrated and shipped to a customer dashboard that lives in our Link Plus customer portal. So that is fully integrated. Customers have real-time access to their cost and consumption data. The dashboard also features predictive analytics and calendarization that allows customers to interact with the data, identify trends, and ultimately, if they see anything out of the ordinary, unusual, or just generally think they could be getting more out of their property, this dashboard gives them a direct line of contact to our bench of energy experts. So we've heard directly from our customers that when they have issues, calling utilities often isn't too productive. So kind of allow them to circumvent that process and get that real customer partnership. So moving on to our reduce phase. Unsurprisingly, being that we are warehouse owners, LEDs are a massive part of this program. So we like the stat that over half of a typical warehouse's power load comes exclusively from lighting. So when you do an LED retrofit, oftentimes you're cutting that in half. That's really the low-hanging fruit that we've been pursuing in earnest over the last few years. And we have our publicly facing goal of retrofitting our entire same store 2020 portfolio by 2025. We're about 60% of the way there right now. Some of our portfolio has already been retrofitted, but we just passed the 100 million square foot retrofit mark thanks to our national program, which is a huge milestone. Also, the ultimate goal, once we complete that, is to move into more sophisticated projects, and we have begun piloting BMS and smart building technologies at our energy solutions pilot customer spaces, and they can see all of that real-time cost and savings data in their dashboard. And then finally, the offset phase. So this is really about renewables integration. Our goal is to give customers access to renewables, whether or not they have, physical solar at the site or not. So we do have our public goal of installing 300 megawatts of solar by 2025. And candidly, that's been a challenge for us to accomplish. Being that we're such a transactive company, we have sold off some of our solar pipeline in the past. But we are in an exclusivity period with a national solar developer that we believe has the deep national level expertise that will allow us to kind of tailor our approaches at the market level, based on a slew of factors, including, the market environment and regulatory environment, to really kind of hopefully see some hockey stick type growth in this space. Outside of solar, I think to be the coolest parts of our program is our power procurement program. So we do this a little bit differently. Typically, where you'd have to procure power at the asset level via PPAs, we kind of reimagine that model a little bit, and we use Blackstone's line of credit to essentially roll up a bunch of low density power assets load into one single block that we purchase on a quarterly basis. So it allows us a lot of flexibility to kind of move customers on and off as we need to and as we transact. And we've been able to procure very favorable rates of electricity for our customers. And even more importantly than that, we see this as a mechanism for insulating them from power market volatility, which we all know will only become more extreme and more of an issue with climate change. So ultimately, this power purchasing mechanism will be our ultimate path towards decarbonizing our portfolio for everyone who is enrolled in the program, because we'll start to layer in renewables as customers express interest. So here I want to highlight our national LED program, which I think is a prime example of the strategy of leveraging our scale and really kind of a cornerstone of why we were able to bring energy solutions to market last year. And there are 3 reasons why having one single national program, one single vendor has been key. The first is we can't reduce what we can't measure. So given Link's size, working with hundreds of lighting partners all over the country makes it virtually impossible to perform measurement and verification at scale. So creating a standard process powered by a sophisticated and fully integrated data platform has done a couple of things. One, it's allowed us to set a baseline. So we are not done auditing our portfolio. When we set our goal back in 2021, it was largely based on Kingsley data from our customers, and PCAs were using what we had available, but we're set to finish our audits in 2024. But having all of this data at our fingertips has allowed us to measure our progress against our goal and make strategic decisions around project planning and budgeting for the years to come. Secondly, having all of this data has made it much easier for us to set a definition for what we consider to be high efficiency lighting at a space. So again, back to the challenge of Link transacting so much, and in this space, particularly ownership and tenancy can change hands a lot, and with that can come a lot of impacts to the asset itself, including fixtures. So there can be quite a blend at the site level, but having all of that granular fixture level data allows us to really see the lighting mix holistically. And because of that, we've decided to use lighting power density, so watts per square foot, as the indicator for what we consider to be high efficiency or low efficiency. Because it doesn't always behoove you to, tear out all the fixtures and retrofit the entire space wholesale. So we set the threshold of 0.45 watts per square foot. So anything exceeding that would be considered low efficiency, and based on where we're at, EMC, our national vendor, will action projects accordingly. So having one single vendor, one single program is also important for creating a standard process and increasing our execution timeline. So partnering with tenants and with our property management teams can be challenging. Our priority as a landlord is always to keep our customers focused on their businesses. So we want to get in and out of there as quickly as possible. And thirdly, we know what to expect from a cost standpoint with one vendor. So one of the, cornerstones of energy solutions is financial modeling. So we won't pursue a project in partnership with a tenant unless we can guarantee that they will be saving more via those energy efficiency improvements than they will be getting billed back from us. So essentially, we want to keep them cash flow positive on day one. So having one vendor allows us to avoid any surprises when it comes to costs and deliver the returns that we have promised our tenants and to Blackstone, candidly. So I will go quickly into this timeline and kind of the journey to setting up this national program. 2021, we set our corporate goal, and our building solutions department was stood up. So building solutions is kind of the arm within the sustainability team that oversees all of our energy efficiency projects at the program level. They'll work with our construction and property management teams, but having this team allows us to think more strategically and from a sustainability perspective. We also released the RFP that year, and in 2022 started piloting projects with EMC, which is the Energy Management Collaborative. They're a very lighting and technology focused vendor, which is why we ended up going with them. Selected them as a national partner and established a standard process for LED job data collection. So last year was the first year that building solutions started taking over our lighting projects. And with that, we began staffing and really building out a comprehensive team of engineers and project managers. Executed the MSA with EMC and also did a lot of internal change management. So industrial real estate, obviously very based in leasing, and LED retrofits and projects that tend to happen at the time of lease roll can often have a huge impact on the leasing process. So having our LED dashboard ready, which also went live last year, was a huge help in getting that buy-in, kind of seeing how organized this program was poised to be, and how quickly we could start rolling these projects out and, assuring everyone that it wouldn't affect the leasing process. 2024, finally wrapping up our over 500 million square foot audit list. So huge feat there. We passed our 100 million square foot of installs mark. And probably most importantly, this is the year that we've started partnering with customers on LEDs via energy solutions. So 2023, we rolled out the program. There were a lot of great utility billing and administration benefits. Of course, our customers get the benefit of the power procurement program, but this is when we really start the capital deployment aspect. So there will be a lot of good things to come out of that. Next year, it'll be business as usual, very lease driven. Every single time lease rolls, if a space has had an audit and doesn't have LEDs or high efficiency lighting by that standard, they will get a retrofit. And then beyond that, it is just process improvement and automation reporting. We like to eventually integrate more specific project level details with the Energy Solutions dashboard. At the bottom of the screen here, I'll just highlight quickly. This is kind of just showing the mix of the different teams that have taken on these projects. And the darkest blue color here represents our building solutions team. So that's really our national program. And 2023 was the first year that they started taking on those projects. So you can kind of see the steady increase once that team started sort of dominating that work stream. And it was a huge contributing factor to our ability to increase our project execution volume between 2022 and 2023 by 250%. So incredible validation that the national program is working as we intended it to. And then I will move into results. So to date, Energy Solutions has generated a total benefit of around 16 cents per square foot for enrolled customers, amounting to about 12% off of a customer's utilities annually. So that can be a big difference, especially for our small business customers. So that 6 cents here is coming from a mix of energy efficiency projects, utilities, service benefits like from bill audits, security deposit recoveries, etc. And then the remainder, that 10 cents, is coming from our preferred rates via our power procurement program. So we've seen incredible benefits there. So far, Link has enrolled over 1,000 customers across our industrial portfolios and business parks. And in July, we went live with our new lease enrollment program. So essentially, every time a new tenant comes on with Link and signs a lease, they will be enrolled in Energy Solutions unless they decide to opt out, of course. And so that really is in an effort to slowly convert our entire portfolio to this program for the ultimate impact of decarbonizing the portfolio and making it as efficient as possible. So with that, I will hand it over to Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Justine. And it was really cool to see how you eliminated that split incentive and took over control of your utility bills to make sure you can get these lighting projects done. So very cool. I think I've got control over the slides. Did you want to touch on this one at all? Or you already?
You're good. Take it away.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I'll reintroduce myself here. My name is Michael Braun. I'm the Director of Sustainability Engineering for Lilybridge Healthcare Services. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of Ventas, and I've been with the company almost 2 years now, and I'm based out of our Chicago office. So really quick about Ventas. Ventas is a healthcare REIT. We really focus on investing in properties that help people live longer, healthier, happier lives. We've been around for 25 years, and you can kind of see our portfolio mix here in the map above. So our largest percentage of buildings is our senior housing communities, but our second largest is our outpatient medical buildings or medical office properties. And that's really the portion that I oversee. And so a little bit about Lilybridge quickly. Again, we're a wholly owned subsidiary of Ventas. We operate the majority of our medical office buildings operating across 36 states, focused on strong partnerships with healthcare systems. And really, I'll touch on this a little bit more later, but we've got a strong culture of tenant satisfaction, and we measure that with another benchmarking tool, which is the Grace Hill Kingsley survey. And we were ranked in the Elite 5 this past year, highlighting our commitment to tenant satisfaction. And then on the bottom here, we're here today to talk about ENERGY STAR. We view that as a partnership on all of our buildings, and we're really proud to have gotten the Partner of the Year Sustained Excellence in Energy Management Award for the second year. And another humble brag here is we had the most ENERGY STAR certified properties of any healthcare REIT last year. And the building shown here was a recent redevelopment where we took some common area, redid the space. We've got some shading for the folks down below, but up above are actually solar panels. So we're generating some energy and reimagining how we integrate sustainability into our properties. Our history with ENERGY STAR, this is what's up on the ENERGY STAR website for partners. We've been active in ENERGY STAR certifications for a while and really use it as our premier benchmarking tool. Ventas as a whole certified 13.8 million square feet last year. And for Lilliebridge specifically, you can kind of see the building growth on the right here. In 2021, certifying 20 buildings, last year up to 66. And this year, we're looking to continue to grow that. And our future, looking to grow that this year, looking to grow that in future years. A big aspect of that growth is an integration into our net zero 2040 goals. And so in 2022, Ventas became the first healthcare REIT to commit to net zero operational carbon emissions, which for us is scopes 1 and 2. For Justine, she focuses mainly on scope 3 because of their lease structure. For us, it's a lot of natural gas consumption on site, which is scope 1 emissions, and then electric consumption that we pay the bills for, which would be our scope 2 emissions. And so we plan to get that to net zero operational emissions by 2040, focusing on energy efficiency, electrifying our heating systems, so going from natural gas to electric, and then renewable energy, which we saw in the last presentation as well. And tied in with our net zero aspirations is ENERGY STAR's next gen certifications, which should open later this year. It doesn't just look at how the building is doing energy efficient wise, but it looks at how much scope 1 emissions are there and how much renewable energy a building's consuming. So we're looking forward to partnering in the next gen certifications as well. But I am here not to talk about certifications and stuff. I'm talking about disrupting the status quo. And my example here isn't necessarily a major technology breakthrough or total shift in the way we operate, but it was looking at what our company was really strong at and trying to copy from that, steal from that shamelessly to grow our ENERGY STAR penetration through the portfolio. And so in some conversations early when I joined, I realized how strong the teams at our company held the Kingsley scores for tenant satisfaction. And we've got a long history of improving our Kingsley scores. And so I looked into the Kingsley scores, tried to get a better understanding, and realized it's not all that different from ENERGY STAR scores. So, the thought process was, can we steal a little bit from how successful that program has been and make a more successful energy program? So the next slide really just looks into, this is straight off the Grace Hill website that talks about the customized benchmarks, benchmarking by property type. This looks very similar to how we benchmark energy, right, with ENERGY STAR scores. And really the light bulb happened when we hit, we've got 8 years of continuous improvement in overall tenant satisfaction as measured by Kingsley. I want to see 8+ years of continuous improvement on our energy performance as well. Our whole company does, right? And so last year at our Lilliebridge's Market Leaders event in November, we bring in a lot of the team from across all the properties we manage. And this slide was presented, making that link between ENERGY STAR scores and Kingsley scores. And the analogy was made, an ENERGY STAR score is essentially the Kingsley score of energy performance. It's a score from 1 to 100. We have to be 75 plus for certification, getting into the top quartile. Guess what our Kingsley goals were for most of our time? It's that top quartile we're desiring, right? So it ties to that same top quartile goal, and it puts it in a way where you can kind of understand, okay, my score is 90. I'm in the top 10% of performance for similar buildings for energy. I'm at a 50, I'm right at the median. I'm at a 25, I've got room to improve. And then we got into some of those details, that the factors that impact the score, like your whole building energy consumption, the building size, energy use intensity or energy use per square foot is a major contributing factor for your ENERGY STAR scores. Building type matters. You can't compare apples to apples, a senior housing building with an outpatient medical building. Similar to, we can't compare a warehouse to an outpatient medical building. They have very different energy profiles. I think we saw lighting made up over half of the energy at most Link properties. Lighting is, maybe a quarter of what we see in our medical office properties. So building type matters a lot. Occupancy, tenant hours, if a building's running 24/7 because of tenant requirements, that's going to impact the score. Climate zone, weather, and then special uses. For us, the special uses are there MRIs in the building? Is there a surgery center? All those pieces impact the score. And if that information isn't accurate, we can't appropriately benchmark buildings, and we can't appropriately prioritize where we should best spend our capital. And so, again, this slide was presented at market leaders, and it was received pretty well. And since then, we've had a lot of great conversations improving our ENERGY STAR certifications year over year. And so the impact, improved understanding, definitely. I can't tell you how many conversations happened after that said, okay, I get it a little bit. Let's say it's occupancy is kind of like how sometimes we focus on our HVAC scores on our Kingsley survey. So it dives into the details and figures out, okay, why is this building scoring lower than that one? And how do we get them all elevated, or at least have an accurate benchmark? So it levels the playing field for all of our properties so that we know, again, where to spend our capital wisely, where to invest in these energy projects. It's a lot and I'll talk too historically here. For a long time, we used a goal of 3% energy reduction year over year. And that's great, especially when you're starting out. But as you get, as you pick off all that low-hanging fruit, as you do all the LED projects, as you do all the building management systems, as you do all that stuff, it becomes increasingly hard to hit that 3% reduction year over year. And what ENERGY STAR does is takes into account where a building currently is, and then looks at how much more room do I have to go, right? So it's really easy to hit a 3% reduction if your ENERGY STAR score is a 25. It's really hard to hit a 3% reduction if your ENERGY STAR score is above a 90. And so that's really where it helps us level the playing field and focus our resources in the right way. And then the last piece of impact here is following the Kingsley model, because we had those 8 years of continuous improvement in tenant satisfaction, they've got a really good playbook that we can copy from and say, okay, how do we grow this program? How do we take this from a handful of buildings in that top quartile to the majority of buildings in that top quartile? And that's really that playbook that we're following. It's not let's turn it on and all of a sudden overnight everything's going to be done. Every one of these buildings has projects that need to happen to get us there. But this continuous improvement mindset of building, growing, building upon what we've learned, and improving our ENERGY STAR scores, that's been very helpful in stealing shamelessly from our Kingsley program. Looking specifically at one of our properties where this helped, I got pulled up from our portfolio manager page. a property in North Carolina, about 75,000 square feet, medical office building, where we started, if we took our benchmark in September, we were sitting at about a 56 Energy Star score. We were right about median, right? This year's the first year where we're going to certify this building, and we've raised that all the way up to 87. A big portion of that is by improving the energy efficiency at that property. You can see what our energy use intensity numbers were and what they went to. And you can see that trend line here at the bottom right. That continuous downslope is something that I love to see, right? But the specific projects that we implemented to improve that score were an LED retrofit, optimal start scheduling for our major HVAC equipment, and then a supply air temperature reset that helps eliminate some of that simultaneous heating and cooling that you get when you have, a central air handler and then VAV zone reheats. And so we saw some really good energy savings from those programs, but that alone wasn't quite enough to get us to certification. And what we found, as a result of really drawing the analogy to, the Kingsley scores and understanding that there's a bunch of factors that go into this Energy Star score, we were able to go in and update Portfolio Manager to reflect what's actually going on at the building. And so we updated occupancy, we updated special uses, including a major physical therapy tenant. And then we added an MRI. We have an MRI in the building. We didn't account for that appropriately in Energy Star. And with that, we went from a 56 to an 87, and we're certifying that building for the first time. So that's just one example where some of these conversations happen that helps you get accurate information and increases your, it increased our certification totals year over year. And it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you had an MRI there and you realize that that's gone now and your score goes down as a result of that. But, you can't make good decisions with bad data. And so if you have bad information in your benchmarking, you're going to be fooled with, where to invest your resources. Looking ahead, I think we want to continue to integrate Energy Star scores into our benchmarking process for new acquisitions. Last year, we acquired a handful of new properties, and we wanted to get those buildings in Portfolio Manager as quick as possible, so we better understood where to deploy our capital, where the deficiencies were, and how to get our newly acquired buildings up to our Lilybridge standard when it comes to energy performance. We also are really focused in improving our Energy Star score accuracy for non-certified buildings. So just making sure that we have accurate benchmarked data. We run into some of the similar problems that Justine was talking about. We have a handful of triple net assets where we don't see that utility bill data. We've got a couple buildings where maybe one or two tenants is directly metered. So we're constantly looking at creative ways to get that data and to have accurate Energy Star scores so that we can appropriately deploy our capital. And then last but not least, we really want to use Energy Star scores and their certifications to help us set goals that tie back to our net zero initiative. Really having that Energy Star score be that, is this building energy efficient enough or not? Because we view it as, the more dollars that we can invest in energy efficiency and reduce consumption, the less we have to procure from renewable sources to ultimately hit our net zero goal. And so that's, it's not your traditional disrupting the status quo. Really, our big takeaway here is a messaging change, and to draw the analogy between Energy Star and Kingsley scores to help teams understand the factors that impact our buildings and impact, where we want to take our buildings from an energy efficiency standpoint. But it was an effective one. A simple messaging change ended up being an effective one that drove conversations to improve our benchmarking and improve our certification totals. So That's all I wanted to cover. I will pass it back over to the team to start fielding some Q&A.
Alrighty, just before we start our Q&A session, just popping in and wanted to emphasize our upcoming ENERGY STAR Award winner webinars coming up. Most recently, we have our October 22nd webinar at 2 p.m., November 21st, and December 5th. And once these slides go out, you can go ahead and click that link on the bottom to register. Alright, so let's go ahead and hop into our Q&A session.